Scene. Healing. Caron awoke late afternoon feeling extremely sore, and he tried to raise his head to look about. Gregory had left a note. Caron read it. Gone to work. Caron made the effort to stand up, but he slumbered back down on the bed, and he moaned with annoyance. And he wished for the bell to call Lysandra, and he waited. Then he heard Lysandra's heavy footstep, and she opened the door and exclaimed, "Hey, sleepyhead, your boyfriend went out to see Julian, and then he went to work." "Good for him," said Caron flatly. "And can you get my brother in here?" Bron entered the room to see how Caron was doing, and smiling, his brother said, "Busy night." "Yeah, shut up and help me get to the shower," said Caron. Bron dragged his brother to his feet, and he had carried him to the shower, and Bron opened the faucet for him, and Caron struggled to his feet, and he entered the shower before the water got warm, and he washed himself from head to toe, and in the meantime Bron started to pick up all the bed sheets for cleaning. And Bron saw the blood splatters in the bed that belonged to Gregory's horns, and he assumed that Gregory had done a number on his little brother. And he made his way to the laundry and on the back of the garden, and Alisa saw him with the bed sheets, and she came to inspect the crime scene. Lysandra, as a rule, refused to clean dirty bed sheets, especially sheets covered in love fluids, and Alisa assisted Bron after cleaning the bed sheets. And she asked, "And how was the little ogre?" "I lied, which is saying something, and for a wimp, Gregory is a demon in the bedsheet," said Bron, laughing, and he added, "Still, my baby brother seems happy, and I guess all he needed to cheer up was a good thrashing." "Seems," asked Alisa. "Well, he was upset that Gregory was not there, and I heard from Eddie that Greg is trying to be responsible so that Lord Julian starts fussing about him," explained Bron. "Good for him. He cannot allow himself to remain Mr. Needy forever," said Alisa, nodding with approval. "Speaking of needy brats, Allan has become a professional thief, and when he won't leave his father's side for even a second, it really is quite pathetic, Alisa." And Bron looked about to make certain that Allan wasn't around, and then he drew nearer to whisper, "The other day I saw Helmer trying to push his big son on a swing, and the weird Anna has to offer assistance." "You think that's bad? I saw Allan drinking from a baby bottle while he pulled out his father's ear," said Alisa, laughing. "Dr. Sunshine calls it childhood regression therapy," retorted Bron. "And he said Allan needs to remember that not everything about his childhood was awful. And to be honest, Alisa, I sometimes get the urge to play as I once did when I was with Ma." "What do you like to play?" asked Alisa. "I like climbing trees," said Bron. "Well, there's a tree over there. Go climb it," said Alisa, pointing to a nearby tree. "And while you're at it up there, get me some ripe mangoes." Bron gingerly climbed up the tree, and he felt proud of his minor accomplishment. And in the bedroom, Lysandra was rummaging through Gregory's gifts, and she found a strange book called the Kama Sutra, and the cover was black, and so she naturally assumed it was a spell book. And when she opened it, she immediately regretted her decision. "Damn it, Allan," snapped Lysandra, "again with those gross gifts, and when are you going to grow up?" Caron left the bathroom with a shepherd's step, and the cold water had helped him awaken his sore limbs, and he opened his closet, and he pondered what he wanted to wear, and he frowned when he noticed that one of his dresses was missing. He shrugged his shoulder, and he dressed himself like a gentleman for a change, and he brushed his long hair back, and he tied it with a pink ribbon, and then he went to the kitchen to eat a light brunch. And when he concluded his small meal, he went out the door, and he put on a large winter coat made of sheepskin. It had snowed the previous night. He walked with a steady pace, and he passed by the park in the direction of the sacred masculine, and he found when he saw Julian walking in the same direction. "Shouldn't you be in school?" asked Caron. "It's the winter holidays, and my father was supposed to visit me today, but Peter did not allow him to see me, and I don't need Peter's permission to see my real father," protested Julian. "Be that as it may, your father's working right now, and he probably won't be able to play with you," explained Caron. "I see," said Julian, frowning, "and maybe just a quick look, and then you can send me home." "You have to stop running away from home, Lord Julian. Something bad could happen to you," protested Caron. It's fine. I can run really, really fast," said Julian, giggling. "And how many times had you had to run away?" insisted Caron. "This month or this year?" asked Julian, giving a sly smile. Not funny, Julian. said Caron, and tell me what happened. Since Julian was not talking, Caron sighed and he took the mischievous child to see his father. And the guild during the winter months was pretty empty, and most of the staff and regulars were playing the role of sailors, pirates, and fishermen. And on the second floor, the mages in training were busy poring over their lessons, and from time to time one would attempt to engage the Arch Magus to ask for tips, and after much insistence, Helmer started to edit the grimoires of all of the mages. Caron, I am doing everyone's homework today. Do you have your own spellbook? Asked Helmer. I do not have a spellbook, said Caron shyly. I just have a couple of pages. Good, said Helmer. I am glad to see that Allan is not the only Magus with common sense. And just look at this stone, Caron. 80 different versions of the same fire spell. And what you needed is different ways to burn a guy. Just learn one version and move on. Quality over quantity, my dear Caron. Still, I like your enthusiasm. That was something that was missing in the tower, and even the kids that wanted to be there. Eventually the beatings and the pressure got to them. And that's the problem with academies. They demand perfection, and perfection is something that doesn't exist. But you are perfect, Master Helmer, said Julian. What I am is an illusionist, nothing more, nothing less, said Helmer solemnly. You split a mountain in half, insisted Julian. Can you teach me the spell? That wasn't a spell, Lord Julian. It was a D-spell, said Helmer. A D-spell? Asked Caron, surprised. Yes, said Helmer. I saw that the mountain had a powerful seal, and I got curious, so I broke it. And to the uninitiated, it seemed as if I split the mountain in half, and I heard that there was a dragon sleeping in the mountains, and I wanted to see it, and when nothing came out, I was really disappointed. The two left to see about Gregory's lecture about paper magic, and Caron opened the door for a bit, and Julian was able to see his father. And Gregory had borrowed one of Caron's dresses, and Gregory had always wondered why Caron wore dresses, so that morning he wore a dress out of sheer boredom and curiosity. And at this point of the lecture, Gregory was eating a small piece of paper, and Julian looked confused, but since Caron was not making a big deal about it, Julian decided that eating paper was a normal behavior. And Gregory turned his head and he saw Caron and Julian, and he smiled before resuming his lecture. And Caron then left the secret mask guild with little Julian. Along the way, Julian asked a pertinent question. Why is my father eating paper? It is how paper magic works. It is an ancient and powerful, but not a lot of mages can harmonize with the written word. I tried my hands on it once, and the act of eating paper was nauseating, explained Caron. Yuck, protested Julian. Because like you write the spells, in order to learn it, you need to eat the paper with the spell written on it, because that's how paper magic works. You gotta eat a lot of paper. By now they had arrived at Miss Lady's door, and Peter did not show the least bit of surprise seeing Caron with Julian. And Julian went to his playroom to catch up with his homework. And thank you for returning, Lord Julian, said Peter. And why didn't you let Gregory see Julian today? Asked Caron. Allan was visiting, and when he saw Gregory in a dress, he told me to send him away, explained Peter. Did he now? Said Caron flatly. And where's Alec? He's at the brothel, said Peter. Prostitution was legal and regulated in Wallen, and the Ace of Hearts Guild managed all of the entertainment venues, and they also managed the only brothel in Wallen. And it made certain that the workers were adults and had a roof over their head and living wages, education, and security. And they also took care that the workers were not there against their will. And the brothel was called the Club, and all the venues of the guild, and all the venues of the entertainment guild were named after suits or cards. So like the club is named the club, like the club card. During trading season, skilled prostitutes could make a sizable fortune from travelers. And since it was the winter, the club was operating with a skeleton crew. Caron was familiar with the club, and when Braun entered puberty, he became a regular at the club, and he would hook up with whatever teenage maiden brushed up against him. And younger patrons could enjoy the vibe, the music, the shows, but not the workers. And it was there where Braun had met Alisa, who liked to watch all of the burlesque shows. And when Caron was younger, he would sometimes tag along with his brother, though he was shy and he never approached any maiden. Caron walked with a fast step towards the club, and he wanted to finish his business and be out of that place as quickly as possible. And in the exterior, there rested two maidens by the window reading books, and they wore their war paints, but otherwise they were dressed in winter coats. and the close proximity to the beach made it a cold place to hang out, and the windows had red curtains drawn to add mystery to it. One of the maidens outside recognized Caron, and smiling she said, "Hey, little ogre, how are you doing? We haven't seen your brother in ages." "He got married," said Caron flatly. "I suppose he might turn up here eventually," said the other maiden, laughing. The first maiden stood up and she said, "You got tall, Caron, and cute." And she patted Caron's hair coquettishly as the way that it was other trait, and she added, "How about you, sweetie? Any significant other in your life?" "I have a boyfriend now," said Caron, entering the club. "Me too. What a happy coincidence," said the maiden. "I knew it. I knew the little ogre fancy man," said the other maiden, "and you owe me 80 gold coins." And the two maidens in the front porch started to argue about the bet they had made 6 years ago. And Caron looked about the half-empty venue with a large hall and the many stages and musicians in the corner, and like almost all venues, at the heart of it was the bar. And sitting there talking with one of the matrons was Alex. And matrons were the managers of the club, and they rarely took on clients. And Alex was trying to use some of that old Dragosesti charm on the matron, who was clearly not impressed with his dragon lineage. When Caron drew near, he heard the matron say, "So if you're a descendant of the dragon Mordred, where are your scales? You don't even have wings or tail, or even horns. Can you breathe fire?" "Nay, my lady, but I do have the heart of a dragon, and right now it is broken by your disdain," said Alec with an exaggerated show of sadness. Caron jumped into the conversation flatly to say, "Gregory has a tail." Alex turned pale as death when he heard this affirmation, and he said, giving a fake laughter, "No, he doesn't. That is just a fake rumor. Caron, can you come with me for a second?" Alec pulled Caron by the arm and he dragged him to an empty room. In front he whispered, "What, are you an idiot? You can't go around telling people that Gregory has a tail." Caron said, feigned naiveness, said, "Why?" "Because," said Alec, measuring his words. "Because," repeated Caron. "Because they say that if you marry your sister, you get a son with a tail, that's why. And Gregory has it bad enough being a bastard, and if you add inbred to the equation, the problem becomes much worse for him," lied Alec. "That is an old wives' tale to discourage inbreeding among nobility," said Caron, laughing. "You still don't get it, do you?" said Alice, sitting down on the bed with frustration, and he added, "If word of Greg's tale starts circulating, then the children at Julian's school will tease him, and then that kid is never going to be able to get a proper education. He has it bad enough due to his unusual family situation, and Greg is obviously not cooperating, dressing like a bitch." "Teasing in our school usually doesn't go far. One has very strict anti-bullying policies," said Caron naively. "And pray do enlighten me about the nature of such policies. I am very curious," said Alice, sitting back against the pillows. "Frequent offenders are removed from their homes and are put to work in sailing ships for the winter, and others are sent to Sofina's orphanage for rehabilitation. Rehabilitation being a healthy dose of preaching and praying, and others are put to work with horses," explained Caron. "That all sounds well and good on paper, but if Sofina was such an expert, why does Julian still have bullying problems?" said Ale. And Caron didn't have an answer to that question, and Ale, changing the subject, said, "Aside from your meddling, did you come here for business or for pleasure?" "I wanted to politely ask you not to interfere with Gregory's relationship with Julian. Julian left his home to see his father because of that little stunt you pulled, and since might seem safe during the winter, but one never knows," said Caron. "I see that Lord Julian does indeed take after his father," said Ali, genuinely distressed, "and he fancied that the boy was as reckless and idiotic as his father Gregory." "Not in the slightest," said Caron, "and he's more level-headed and practical than his mother, Miss Lady. But he does tend to be disobedient if denied the right to see his father Gregory. And if it was up to Julian, we would all live in a big mansion where he could see his father all the time without having to ask for permission. You know as well as I do that such a scenario can never be. Gregory is not well, and he should only have access to his sons when he's in control of his emotions," said Alec calmly. "Gregory will never get better as long as people keep treating him like a lunatic," said Caron. Alec smiled happily after hearing this, and then he said in an endearing tone, I can see why my brother likes you, Caron. You treat him as if he was normal. And if this were a fairy tale, your love for my brother would help dispel the darkness that weighs heavily on his fragile mind. And he suffered much when the tower exploded, and the time he spent fighting Arch Magus' army didn't do him any favor. Like it or not, you need to accept the fact that Gregory isn't well. I know that Gregory isn't well in Caron before departing, but he isn't a mad beast that you have to keep on a tight leash. More than control, what he truly needs is kindness and understanding. He's your brother. Remember that the next time you interfere with his happiness. After saying his piece, Caron walked out of the club, and on the way out he bumped into Allan. And Allan, laughing, said, "Ha, I'm telling Gregory on you." And Allan then disappeared to tattle on Caron. And Caron signed, and then he took out a pocket watch to see the time. And with the sun setting, he could expect Gregory to be out of work and slaving away in the kitchen. And on the way home, he saw Hope in the bar with Eric and Sofina, and the two had practically already adopted the kid, and ever since Hope's arrival, the two had stopped arguing. And back at home, Gregory was in the kitchen talking with Allan, and Gregory smiled when he saw Caron enter, and Gregory was still dressed like a lady, only that he added an apron to keep the dress clean. And Gregory removed Caron's cloak, and as he did, he kissed Caron's neck. And Caron did not respond, and Gregory, frowning, said, "Why so grumpy, Caron?" "I spoke to your brother Alex," said Caron, sitting down in a chair in the kitchen area. "I see," said Gregory, turning to stir the pot. And since his back was turned, Caron could not see Gregory's eyes turning red with anger. Caron did notice that Gregory was upset, however, by how strongly he was gripping the ladle, like the spoon that used to stir soup. And Caron, chuckling, said, "I told him to leave you alone and to stop interfering with your life. I mean, you just turned 20. It is about time they cut the umbilical cord, don't you think?" Gregory's grip relaxed, and his eyes were still red, but the expression in them had turned to one of sadness. And he continued to stir the pot in order not to face Caron, and then he asked, "How did he take it?" "He said he was wrong about me, and he acknowledged our love," said Caron happily. "A Drago Zesty admitting that they're wrong. Surely you jest," said Gregory, laughing bitterly. "Well, he's going to fuck up soon, so forget about him," said Allan, intervening. And Gregory smiled and said, turning around, "Good point." "So, Caron, do you need a pillow or something?" asked Allan. "Ha ha ha ha, very funny, Allan," said Caron, elbowing Allan's ribs. After dinner, Caron went to catch up with the morning work he had postponed, and the main vein of the mines was drying up, and they had to gauge the risk involved in digging deeper. And there was also the forest's integrity to consider. And Caron said to himself thoughtfully, "We might need to think of a different family venture." And Caron's rumination was interrupted by two arms coiling around his neck, and Gregory kissed Caron's ear before saying, It's late, come to bed already." Caron looked at the time, and he saw that it was only 8:30. Gregory passed his hand to Caron's button shirt in order to better his mood, and Caron smiled and said, "All right, Mr. Gregory, let's go to bed already." And Gregory was surprised and relieved by the fact that Caron didn't call him Mr. Needy. And back in the bedroom, Gregory detained Caron, and he sat down in the nearby couch, and showcasing the dress, he asked, "Do you think this new look suits me? The sleeves and the skirt are a bit too short for you. I can see your ankles. It is a very indecent of a lady of your station to be seen wearing such a provocative dress," said Caron jokingly. "But you're not the type of man who likes ladies, are you, sweet Caron?" said Gregory, sitting on top of Caron's lap. "I suppose not," said Caron, indulging Gregory. And he hugged Caron and gave him a bit of encouragement. And when Caron was ready to go, Gregory shifted the skirts of his dress to make himself more comfortable on top of Caron. And slowly Gregory moved his elegant body up and down while getting lost in the pleasurable sensation rising up his spine. And the winter months passed in this same merry fashion, and Caron was getting used to his new happy routine that now included his nightly workouts with Gregory. And on word this, Gregory would meet with Caron for 2 hours, and if it's not a lot and classes got canceled, this afforded Gregory more time to test his boyfriend's endurance. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.